Negative thoughts are not something that you can just think away.
In my head,
I'm such a loser. I'm an idiot. I'm ugly and I'm disgusting. Nobody would ever want to get with me. I wouldn't even want to get with me. I'm difficult. I'm lazy. No one's ever going to love me. How does it feel to hear me say those things? It should feel uncomfortable. You might feel a little bit of pain for me when I say them. But why do you say them about yourself? No, it's not because you're a bad person and you do everything wrong, but we need to talk about this because these negative thoughts could be ruining your life. Now, negative beliefs, they exist inside of our mind, but they got there somehow. And I know sometimes it feels like they just happen, but there's more to it than that. There's different kinds of negative beliefs and they show up for different reasons. We need to explore that if we want to help you get your life back on track and start feeling good about yourself. You deserve to. One way that negative beliefs might show up is if they are intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts we see with things like OCD. An intrusive thought is basically an unwanted thought that comes out of nowhere. It typically is sexual, violent, or blasphemous in nature. And a good example might be if you're driving along and all of a sudden you have this flash in your head that you're going to cause an accident, like you're going to turn the wheel, and that's obviously not something that you're planning to do. It's not something you want to do, but it's very jarring, and it's like, holy crap, why did I have that thought? And that kind of starts the OCD spiral. We see this particularly in pure OCD, where you start to think like, why did I think that? Am I a bad person? Oh my gosh, am I going to hurt somebody? And then it just kind of spirals from there, and you get stuck in this thought process of trying to fix the original thought of crashing into somebody or hurting yourself or hurting your family in the car with you. If pure OCD is the problem that you're having, you'll want to see a therapist, and probably you'll have to do with them something called exposure response prevention therapy. They can walk you through it, you can see results pretty quickly, and you'll start to feel better. You might also experience negative thoughts with social anxiety or avoidant personality disorder because you feel like other people are judging you, and so you start to think these things about yourself, that you're ugly, that you're disgusting, that you can't do this, that people are watching you. And it may not actually be true that that's what's going on, but you're playing it over in your head because that's what you believe. But the truth is that that's actually coming from the anxiety within inside your own body, and you're feeling that anxiety, and that anxiety is being projected out into the people around you, and you're seeing that anxiety as arising from them when it's really arising from within you. So what you have to do is to quell that anxiety, learn to manage the stress, and also challenge those negative thoughts and remind yourself, like, people are not watching me. They don't really care that much about what's going on. Just because somebody looks at me doesn't mean that they're judging me. In a similar way, if you're somebody who's prone to schizotypy and you feel like these thoughts are coming from outside your head or they've been implanted in your head, what might actually be happening is there's an anxiety inside of you that's being projected outward, but you feel much less attached to it, and it really feels like it's some outside force that's going on. In that case, you're probably going to want to get on some kind of medication, and you'll definitely want to see a therapist who can work through that with you. If you're somebody who's experiencing depressive symptoms, you're feeling unmotivated, you feel like you can just never accomplish things, you've kind of given up, you feel blunted emotions, you just feel like blah crap, you might start to tell yourself that you're lazy, that you're good for nothing, and you know, those kinds of thoughts come up, and those are also a problem, obviously. So to change the negative beliefs associated with depression, of course, medication may also be an option. You may have to challenge those thoughts, and you may have to push yourself to do little things that you can accomplish each day so you start to feel some sense of autonomy, so you don't feel like you're as lazy. You're not a lazy person, but sometimes we get stuck in these places in life where nothing we do seems to matter. Nothing seems to get us the attention that we need. Doesn't matter how many times we cry out, doesn't matter how many times we work on something, we just feel like we're constantly failing, and that can lead into a depression. So if you can find little things that you can do, maybe play a game that you know you can win, or do a small task like clean the counter, something very small, and build up over time doing more and more of those small tasks, you may start to feel a little bit better about yourself. Something kind of related to this is if you've experienced trauma, maybe you have PTSD. Negative recurring thoughts are a part of PTSD, and so you might find yourself thinking like, I'm to blame for whatever's going on in my life, I am a horrible person, and that would be a symptom of the PTSD. Now, in addition to the things that I said about social anxiety and depression, when it comes to PTSD, you may have to deal with that original trauma. If you continue to avoid it, you may start to feel inadequate, you may get triggered, and it may just have that sinking feeling come in every time you get triggered. You may not even realize why it's happening or what's happening. The best thing I would say is to go see a trauma specialist. They'll be able to help you work through the trauma, and then you won't have to have these thoughts that you're a horrible person that deserve to have this happen to you, because you're not. When it comes to a lot of mental illnesses or just mental health problems in general, we sometimes internalize things that were going on externally from us. So if we were repeatedly told in childhood, for example, that we were lazy, that we were a loser, that we weren't good for something, we start to internalize that because we can't escape it because we're children. Our parents are always in charge of caring for us. It's kind of like an inescapable situation. And so that message becomes something that starts to play over in our head. It becomes like our default when we think about things. We can also see this when we get bullied in school. Maybe we're a minority. Maybe we just don't stick up for ourselves. Whatever it is, we hear these messages in school, we hear them from society, and they get stuck inside and they become our go-to way of describing ourselves to ourselves. Truthfully, you're going to have to see a therapist if this is a problem that's been persisting for a while. Of course, you can always try to talk it out with friends too to relieve some stress. But what I really wanted to show with this video is that negative thoughts are not something that you can just think away. They're not something that you just have to smile and be happy and focus on the positive. Of course, those are important things and they can be a part of the healing process, but negative thoughts are a little bit more than that, especially when they persist over time. So it's helpful to go see somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to negative thoughts instead of just thinking positive and trying to make it go away. So I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts about this? Have you thought negative thoughts about yourself for a long time? Do you have any tips for somebody else? Leave those down in the comments below so we can all discuss. I have over 250 videos here on mental health, so if you want to subscribe and hit the bell after you hit subscribe, you'll get notified each time that I do a video. And if you want to support me on my mission of humanizing mental health, you can do so over on Patreon. I will put the link above. Thanks for coming out here with me tonight. My night is over. I will see you next time, everyone. Take care, everyone.